Today's big story: where there is smoke, my friends, there is fire. From Senator Coburn, Senator Udall, Senator Whitehouse, Lawrence Lessig, Russell Simmons, Deepak Chopra, John Resnick of the Goo Goo Dolls. The list goes on. The chorus gets louder. And the concern about the influence of money in American politics is swelling before our eyes into a fight song for people concerned about the auction of our democracy. 94% of the time, the candidate who raises the most money wins. That's not an election. This Thursday, yesterday, Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont carried the pitch higher on the Capitol, proposing his version of a constitutional amendment that simply establishes that corporations, by law, are not people.
In my view, a corporation is not a person. The Supreme Court says that these corporations have a constitutionally protected right to spend shareholders' money to dominate an election as if they were real, live persons.
Here with us now, the man who is now at the center, the apex of the Great 28 debate, Senator Bernie Sanders. And Senator, what must be done as the momentum is obviously accelerating to support not only you, but all of us in this country who are desperate to see this debate for the 28th Amendment proceed?
Well, this, Dylan, is the issue. Our job is to educate, to organize, and to put as much pressure on Congress so that they, in fact, pass a constitutional amendment to undo the disastrous impact to our democracy that Citizens United has done.
Connect it to the kitchen table. If I'm sitting there looking at this election year and I'm worried about health care for my grandmother, I'm worried about asthma in my daughter, I'm worried about heating oil in Vermont, how does money in politics relate?
Here's what it is. Right now, and I think many people may not understand this, because of the Citizens United 5-4 Supreme Court decision, you can have a group of billionaires, a group of corporate executives sitting around the room, and they're going to say, look, here's a guy in California, here's somebody in Nevada, here's somebody in Oregon who's opposing our interests. They want to protect the middle class and working families. They don't want to give the rich tax breaks. They don't want to end Social Security or Medicare and Medicare. We have got to defeat that person. All right, I want you to put $20 million into California, $15 million in Oregon, $10 million into Ohio. They do this, Dylan, without disclosure. So somebody goes home, they turn on their TV, there's an ad by Citizens for a Better America or whatever, attacking a candidate or supporting another candidate. Unlimited sums of money from corporations who go into their own corporate treasuries from the richest people in this country without any disclosure, bombarding the airwaves, electing those people who support big money, trying to defeat those of us who support working class and middle class families.
And if you look at a couple of the past amendments, one overwhelming success, one a very public piece of debate that certainly changed a lot of legislation but failed. I'm referring to the ERA, which failed as an amendment but did impact legislation, and changing of the voting age to 18 during the Vietnam War, which was perhaps the fastest amendment and came on a justice narrative, not a partisan narrative. How do you cast this not as a left or right issue, but as an issue of a breach of American justice so that you can capture the same thing that was captured with the voting age at 18?
Well, Dylan, your point is well taken. Here's the reality. Whether you are a Democrat, whether you're a Republican, whether you're an independent, whether you're a progressive like me or a conservative, overwhelming majority of the American people think that what that Supreme Court decision did is totally wrong. Very few people believe that large corporations should be able to buy elections. That is not what democracy is about. So your point is exactly right. What we have to do right now is to build on the frustration and the anger that the American people feel about money in politics, about this disastrous Citizens United decision, and move toward a day when we're going to have a democracy where one person, one vote is what it's about, and not see our politics dominated by corporate interests or billionaires.
Do you have confidence that you can enroll a conservative senator to join you in co-sponsoring the amendment that you introduced this week?
Well, we're going to try. And I want to tell you something, Donald, if I can do a little self-promoting here. We have a website, sanders.senate.gov. We put up a petition yesterday, 1 day ago. We have over 40,000 signatures in 1 day. So I think the word is out, and I think there are some honest conservatives who understand that in American democracy, our people historically have fought and died to preserve democracy, the right of the people to rule, not the right of a handful of billionaires to decide who's going to get elected. So I think regardless of political ideology, there is widespread support from the right to the left to say we have got to undo the severe damage that Citizens United has done to our democracy.
As you know, there are a handful of amendments out there, and as you know, we here on the show initiated a petition to call for the Great 28 debate, not so much to advocate for a specific amendment, but to invite people like you to educate us as to why you view those amendments ought to be the way they are, and for people like ourselves to raise the temperature on everybody to actually do this. It's clear that corporations are not people in your language. I'm interested in your assessment of the debate around whether money is speech, which seems to be the other half of any of these conversations.
No. The idea that if somebody is a billionaire, they can have unlimited ability to impact an election, whether it's Senate, House, mayor's election, presidential election, that is not what democracy is about. All of us believe in the First Amendment. We all believe in freedom of speech. I take that very, very seriously. But freedom of speech does not mean the right of billionaires to buy elections. Dylan, a moment ago you asked me what the real-world impact of Citizens United and money in politics is about. I'll tell you what it's about. When somebody in the United States Senate has to go up to the table and cast a vote, and you're sitting there and thinking, if I vote against the interest of Wall Street, if I vote against the interest of the military-industrial complex, if I vote against the insurance companies or the drug companies, will I go home next week and find millions of dollars of ads bombarding my state against me because I cast that vote? Maybe I shouldn't cast that vote. Maybe I shouldn't stand up to the big money interest. Maybe I should not oppose tax breaks for the rich because they may unload on campaign ads in my state. Those are the day-to-day realities that elected officials deal with because of this disastrous decision.
And the other thing that it really has disgusted me since I left CNBC a few years ago and got into the sausage maker that is the American political system is the realization that my representatives and the representatives in our government across the board spend a stunning amount of time, especially in the House where it's a 2-year term, not learning, not debating, not even legislating, but literally in a fundraising contest like it's a bake sale for the Girl Scouts, and it's insulting to the American people.
You're absolutely right. It is insulting. It is demeaning. You go privately, just do it off your TV camera. Talk privately to Republicans and Democrats and say, how do you feel about having to hustle money? You spend huge amounts of time, not only spending the time, but doing the thinking. How do you do your job, which is trying to legislate, trying to figure out how we solve the enormous problems facing our country when half of your mind is figuring out, how do I raise $5 million in the next year? And what Citizens United has done, because it has unleashed huge amounts of corporate money and billionaire money, it makes those people who don't get that money say, my God, I'm going to have to work twice as hard now because they're really going to spend huge amounts of money against me. It is a horrendous situation, and your point is absolutely right. Talk to Republicans. Talk to Democrats and ask about, I may disagree with some of these guys on issue after issue, but they did not get elected to sit around getting on the telephone hustling money. They want to do what they're supposed to do to represent their constituents, and very often they just don't have the time to study the issues, to fight for those issues because they're doing fundraisers or they're raising money on the phone.
Very quickly, Senator, because I am running a clock, but I have the benefit of former Governor Buddy Roemer also as a guest in this show today. As you know, he is the only Republican presidential candidate running on the singular platform of getting money out of politics, and yet he continues to be marginalized in the context of the Republican debates and in terms of including him in those debates. In brief, your thoughts on the Roemer candidacy and his role in the Republican primaries?
Well, to be honest with you, I'm not all that familiar with Mr. Roemer's positions. But I think money in politics is the issue. And anyone who is concerned about the economy, health care, global warming, education, if you do not understand the role that money is playing in politics in protecting the interest of the wealthy and the powerful, then you really don't know what's going on in Washington.
And I could not obviously agree with you more. We got 250,000 people on the Get Money Out petition. We're going to have 11 different amendments up, including yours, for people to study and learn about corporations, people, money, and speech. And thank you. Thank you, Senator.